Welcome to the Afternoon Tea Podcast.
We're your hosts / baristas,
Krish.
Lisa and Bella.
In the cafe, we'll be discussing about mental health and well-being.
On our menus, there is no sugarcoating, no filters, no scripts, just raw and honest conversations.
We will be discussing some sensitive topics, so if you feel like anything affects you or you want help, please go to youtv.co.uk/support. Let's spill the tea.
Cheers.
Welcome back to the Afternoon Tea Podcast. I'm one of your hosts / baristas, Lisa, and my drink of choice today is actually going to be some hot chocolate because we're going to get nice and cozy. And I'm also joined here with...
Krish, another one of your hosts / baristas. I actually forgot my drink today, so a bit boring there. But however, we have a special guest, Abid. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Abid Hussain, and I work in schools and I do some community work. And my drink of choice today is NBM, which means nil by mouth.
Great. Well, please elaborate. You're a teacher, but what else do you do? Just explain about yourself.
So I've been coaching cricket for about 22 years now with an organisation called Faith in Queen's Park. We run lots of different projects. We do cricket, basketball, tennis, youth empowerment. So I manage that, do the fundraising for that. So we got lots of different projects coming up this year. So do league cricket from 9 till 15-year-olds. We do basketball from 6 to 20-year-olds. We're starting tennis for girls only as well. The Empower Lens, which is training young people to film, edit, and make content to give them a voice. So that's why it's called Empower Lens. That lens is their voice. We got a free summer club coming up. So during the summer, we're going to give the children of Queen's Park 3 weeks of free summer activities and a basketball tournament as well.
Oh, wow.
So doing all of that, plus fundraising as well.
Gosh.
Okay, so as being a teacher, a DT teacher, and also a cricket coach,
Yeah.
Something we really like to talk about on this podcast is mental health. And so being a teacher, what have you noticed in schooling when you were our age? Like, what was the school system like in terms of dealing with mental health compared to now? Do you think it was a positive difference, or do you think something more could be done?
I think when I went to school in the 80s and early 90s, there was no mention of mental health.
Yeah.
Just had to get on with it. So if you were having a bad time at school, nothing was thought. You just grow a pair, Abid, and just get on with it.
Right.
No, it was just one of them ones. Whereas now, there is a lot more care and attention to mental health. If people are struggling, they've got pastoral support. They've got all these different agencies that they can go to, like Chums and CAMS and all these other different agencies that I can't remember off the top of my head, but they've got so much support. Teachers are talking about it. Students talk about it. We've got a junior leadership team that the young people that are suffering from or experience mental health can go to. So yeah, so there's a lot more out there. There's a lot more awareness now than there was post-COVID. I think pre-COVID, there wasn't as much attention, but post-COVID, I think it's brought everything to the limelight about mental health.
And then why do you think that? Because obviously, I can imagine as a teacher and also, us as students, there's a massive shift that went on. There's something we've never experienced before. But why do you think that period really brought mental health and well-being to light? So, such to say.
I think lockdown, people aren't used to being encaged or
Confined.
confined in their own homes and not meeting people, not being able to go out, not socializing. That brought about so many issues. And I think I suffered from mental health during lockdown as well. I started getting alopecia due to the stress of not being out, not working. Well, I was working from home, but it wasn't the same where you can't interact with your colleagues and young people. And I think that, and then it's since COVID, I think there is a lot more attention to mental health and how we deal with mental health and how we can prevent mental health.
And do you think that's only within the school system, or do you think that's everywhere now? It's really being identified.
I think everywhere now, because I did some work with a men's charity, like I think it's Men to Talk. We used to go to walks with like a group of men would get together and we just go for a walk and just walk and talk. So yeah, that brought it up to men. Also, like within the cricket or within our activities at Faith in Queen's Park, what we do is we do about 10, 15 minutes worth of mental health talk or toolkits, so the young people can express themselves or have them tools to cope with mental health. I think changing the perception of people my age is quite difficult. However, it's planting the seed to the young people early to be able to talk about it. Because men my age, like, we're not, like, you got mental health, you ain't got mental health problems, mate. Like, just get on with it. Like, what you do, buddy? Just like, yeah,
Sure.
that. Whereas it's planting them seeds, and I think especially within the Asian culture, it's making sure that we plant that seed early, because we don't talk about it as much as other cultures, I think. Or I could be wrong because I'm just talking from my own experience.
So from your experience then, why do you think that then? Because, with your background and all, was it very prominent that, this mental health and well-being was quite taboo? Or what would you say?
I would think that from a South Asian cultural background, it's what is mental health? So, like you just grow up, you've got everything. So we'd be told, no, you've got a house, you've got food, you got everything, you got clothing. What have you got to be depressed about? Or what have you got to have issues about? So that was that issue. And also, I think when someone is suffering from mental health, we associate it with them being possessed by a demon or something.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So, like, if you go to someone, I'm struggling, like, you're probably possessed, we need to take you to a healer, and then all of that starts. So there's a lot of that as well. So, like the black magic, the voodoo stuff, all of that starts. So it is hard for a young person to come out and say, look, I'm struggling. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm struggling with exams, or I'm struggling with not finding a job or whatever. And then it can lead to different avenues if they don't have that safe space or agencies to talk to.
So this is a question sort of for you both. A lot of people in your generation, they fear what they don't understand. And not necessarily fear, but sort of to do with what you're saying about being possessed and stuff like that. So do you think that, like, because it's not the older generation themselves don't sort of understand anxiety, because a lot of people in your generation, whether they be from PTSD or whatever it is, they would fear anxiety, they'd feel it as well. So it's not that they don't understand it, but do you think it's because it wasn't talked about enough that they sort of have this idea of it doesn't exist because it wasn't talked about for them the way it's spoken about with us, if that makes sense?
I think it was more from a male perspective. I couldn't talk about the female, but it's more of that masculinity kind of perspective that, look, you're a man, you're meant to be strong, you're meant to take care of the people around you. You can't be, depressed or have mental health issues. Just got to get on with it. Like, we all have problems. What you got to be worried about? And I think that's where it comes from. It's that masculinity image of you can deal with anything. We grew up with Rambo, Rocky, all of them like masculine male men. And I think that was the culture of the time. It's, if these guys can go through like wars and not die, like, what are you not worried about? And I think that was the era that we grew up in.
Yeah.
Them strong male role models, Rocky, Rambo, Predator, all of these masculine men.
I guess they were people's idols at the time in that way. There were these icons you had to, live up to. Because I guess that, there's always going to be a cultural shift, whether we go decades, centuries, whatever, there's always going to be that cultural shift. And I guess we've now, as you, sort of said, post-COVID now, there's that cultural shift now that if you were to say the same thing you were 10 years ago, it might be perceived very differently.
You can get cancelled.
You can get cancelled, which obviously cancel culture is a big thing. So I guess, I understand that completely. But so, you mentioned obviously you being a male, and okay, but I want to delve deeper more into, your culture, right? Because that, you've sort of just said they plainly just doesn't exist, but actually there's something, mentally wrong with you, that you're possessed. It's not you. Why has that suddenly come about? Why do you know?
Where did it stem from?
Where did it stem from? This?
What the possession?
Yeah.
It's
It's quite an odd one. Like how they go from mental health to possessed. Like that's quite a big drastic.
I think the shift has.
Yeah.
We have shifted. I think a lot. We have a lot more understanding of it now. But when I was growing up as a young person, you'd go to the spiritual healer if you had some sort of issue. They'll take you to spiritual healer, try to get you to swing. I think now my generation that has assimilated to this country, we understand that there is mental health. We understand that there could be issues and that child or that person does need help. So so the shift has happened. However, back in my days, it was, the old, like my parents' generation, they had that concept. Like we said, it's like a generational kind of thought. So their generation was not, he's possessed. Our generation is, we had that thought, but now it's no, look, these people need help. And we've got to give them that support. If we don't give them that support, the consequences could be quite dramatic.
So going back to being your position as a teacher and a coach, what is something that you think, from your perspective, that you've seen among children and sort of young adults? What's some signs that you think parents and carers and other teachers should pick up, just in case that maybe this person is dealing with something and they might not want to voice it, but you can sort of tell from either their behavior or stuff like that? What's something that you think should be looked at quite more deeply into, just in case of anything?
I think you can, if you're the regular teacher of a class, you can see a mood shift, you can see a change in their habits, you can see a change in their attitude. And I think these are kind of signals to tell you that something might be wrong, and you just got to ask questions. So I learned this from our mental health project within our activities, is just ask the child a number. How are you feeling? Out of 0 to 10, what number are you on the scale? So 10 would be the highest and 0 would be the lowest. And then you ask people, and I'll go, look, what number are you today? So I'll ask this Pacific girl in my year 11 class, what number are you today, right? Because she gives me a headache sometimes. And I go, look, what number are you today? And she goes, I'm a 2. And then that way I know, look, don't push her too hard. She's not feeling great. And then other times she'll walk in, I go, what number are you? She goes, I'm a 7. I go, right, that's it, we're doing some. And then you make sure that on that day, you push her to do loads and loads of work.
I really like that, yeah.
Whereas when she's a 2, you're like, all right, come on, young lady, we need to do X, Y, Z. But each time, I'm not going to push her too hard. But when she's feeling good, push her. When she's not feeling so good, you still got to do some work.
Of course.
But you don't push as much, just to whatever she might be experiencing that day could just push her over the edge or trigger something else. So,
being a DT teacher and being a coach, do you think that sports, or maybe art in a sense, can be a healing sort of way to cope with mental health?
I think because it's being physical, because DT is being physical, like when you're doing practical work and they're being physical, they've got to cut, saw, drill, use all these different types of machinery and tools. It kind of releases some sort of tension. Same with sport. It's when you're exercising, you get this dopamine effect, and that kind of relieves that stress and gives you that. And plus, I go to the gym in the morning pre-work just to make sure that I get rid of some negative energy. So like when you exercise and just getting rid of all this negative energy. And I think sports, any kind of physical activities within school, whether that's art, DT, PE, music, drama, dance, all of that is good for the students because it allows them to express themselves and release any kind of negative energy that they have.
I feel not a lot of teachers have that mindset, right? Yeah. And so how did you come about sort of being in that mindset, learning that? And how do you think you can maybe educate so to say, these other teachers to have that mindset of actually, this child may not be on form today because of this. Let's not try and push them to that extent. Like, you know.
Was it like your upbringing, or was it something that someone said to you maybe?
I think we've learnt it. I'm quite good at reading people. I'm quite good at reading facial expressions. So, yeah, once you know a child for 6-7 months, you can see whether they're happy, whether they're sad. And I like comedy, so I love comedy, and I love Paul Chowdhury, man like Mobeen. So like, I watch these guys, and then so you got to put a bit of humor into teaching as well. So it's just so it doesn't feel like it's monotonous. And then when we were delivering our mental health sessions within our sporting activities, the lady that used to run that, Teresa, she used to go, "Look, what number are you today?"
Okay.
And then that's where it triggered it. So I'm like, okay. And it's like, "What number are you, Abid?" So on a Saturday morning when I'm stressed, running around, getting the kit out from the cabin to the field and all of that. She goes, "What number are you?" I'm like, "About 5 or 6. "How can we make you an 8, Abid?" So now I realize, all right, if the session goes well and the kids are they're learning and that. And then that's where I thought, look, why don't I take this into the classroom? Why don't I use this strategy, just the number strategy, into the classroom? And it does work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so in the mornings when I have form time, what number are you? And they put up their whiteboard. And then you can see that you can just scan who's not feeling well, and you can ask them that question.
Sorry, something I've noticed a lot is that you mentioned, so I know I keep talking about you being a teacher, but I think it's a really important thing to talk about how sort of teachers, for example, children can be absolutely chaos.
Oh yeah, of course.
And teachers have to learn to maintain that sort of composure in a classroom setting or in any setting for that. And a lot of sort of our generation, also the older generation, they, whether it be emotional or physical or however it may be, they have to learn to keep that composure as well. And I think that's something that students as well as teachers can both relate to in terms of keeping composure. What's some advice do you think that you could give to our audience about sort of maintaining that composure and learning sort of how to self-regulate?
Well, I guess assessing the situation to know how to combat it in that way.
Because I would hum to myself. So if I know that I'm getting on that threshold, I've got this class and they're like you said, they're chaos. Yeah. And I'm like, "Yo, Abid, you're going to lose it. You're losing it." I start humming to myself just to bring myself down, or I do a 3, 2, 1, count on my fingers. So yes, like for me, it's humming, just like humming to myself just to regulate, just to bring myself down a notch. And then
self-soothe in a way.
Yeah. That's what it was. For me, it's just that, just hum a song to myself. And then, or sometimes if I'm feeling really brave, I'll put on a Bollywood song. We want to listen to proper music. Okay, this is proper music. Just depends where you're from.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So that's what it is. So yeah, so for me, it's humming, counting to myself. And then I'm quite fortunate that being a Muslim, I have to pray 5 times a day. So sometimes I have to pray 2 or 3 times a day at work, sometimes 1, depending on the time of the year. So that kind of makes me align back to, so at lunchtime I could just align, so period 5.
Sort of reconnect, just
grounding.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Yeah.
This question might be a little controversial.
Okay.
But, so how do you think, so you've expressed being a Muslim and how sort of praying keeps you regulated and stuff like that. Do you think that perhaps the way that mental health is perceived could be based on also religion and faith? And how, for example, I'm born into the Muslim faith, but I don't necessarily follow it. That's just how I've sort of lived. But for example, me personally, a way I like to ground myself is praying, but not in this way that Muslims are necessarily supposed to, if that makes sense. But that doesn't mean that other religions don't necessarily do that as well. Am I making sense right now?
You are. Yeah. Because a lot of the mental health stuff does come from the Buddhist teachings.
Got you.
Yeah.
Mindset.
100%.
So, this whole mindset regulating comes from the Buddhist teaching. So that's where it all stems from. So yeah, so there is a lot of religion within mental health. So if people think I don't believe in religion, but then are wanting to ground themselves and looking for self-healing, they are following principles and teachings from Buddhism. So it does, a lot of that comes from that teaching, the Buddhist teachings. And just to understand that.
Yeah. So sort of shifting topics then. So we sort of talked about the schooling environment and you as a teacher and how you regulate your class, but yourself as well, and sort of allowing the young people to be the center of it all, and hopefully allowing them to be freer and open to tell you what they're really feeling, which is great. So then as a coach then, why Faith in Queen's Park? Why are you doing this mental health training 15 minutes, before the session? I would love to know more about that, really.
It was lockdown. Children not being able to go out. I saw my own child who was, how old was he? He was about 5 or 6 at a time. You can see like him just putting on a little bit of weight. I put on a little bit of weight. So everyone was putting on a little bit of weight. So it was just seeing that. And I thought, look. And then I did some mental health training. You do a level 2 mental health training through the unions that I work with. And then I thought, look. And then when I started getting alopecia, I went to a healer, not a spiritual healer, not a spiritual healer, but, like one of these cultural healers.
Sure.
And what he would do is pluck my hairs out, and like one of the follicles in my beard or my head was eating the follicle.
Wow.
So then he's coming, pulling them out. And then I remember him saying one thing to me. He goes, tension ni leni, meaning just don't have tension.
Okay.
Just don't have tension.
You said that, done.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And then that was it. The idea stemmed from there. Faith in Queen's Park I think they had about £15,000 to spend on mental health. And then we looked at the idea of incorporating that. We got Teresa Brooks involved, and then she delivered the 10-15 minute sessions of mental health to, the different activities before they start. And, getting the most surprising thing for me was to watch these young Asian children talk about mental health, like open up about, I'm a 2 or I'm a 3. How could you make yourself better? And learning these different coping strategies and managing strategies of mental health. And I think that change, if they've taken a few points from that into their older life, hopefully they can use that on their children, so it's a generational change.
Planted that seed, as you said earlier, and then hopefully it will stem into. Yeah. So, do you think it's working then? Can you apart from just seeing them open up, do you think they actually are changing for the better? Because like you said, Queen's Park is a very different area to, so let's say Putnell, for example, right? Yeah. So, do you think it's working as effectively as it would somewhere else, or are you seeing some positive effect?
I think children are children no matter what part of the country you go to, no matter what cultural background, no matter what religious background. Children are children. They just got to be treated like children. And I think whatever you can do to young people will help. So it's, no matter what area they're from, I think if you teach them these strategies for mental health, they'll learn a lot from it. And they'll learn a lot, and they'll use it, and it'll support their mental health in not just theirs, but anyone around them.
So, okay, sort of to go back to schooling in that sense, it's a sort of an open question as well for you as well. So imagine a scenario where there's an assembly and the teachers bring up the topic of mental health. And some people in the assembly are like, oh, no, not this again. Some are like, oh, some are scared they'll be called out in a sense, if it's like relatable to them. There's so many different opinions, and I like the understanding of individual sort of perspective, but at the same time, it's a shared experience.
Sure.
Anxiety is something everyone feels, like inevitably.
One point in their life, they've definitely felt anxious.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
And for some people, it's obviously to a different extent. Like some people can be sick from anxiety. Some people might thrive with anxiety.
Sure.
It's different for everyone. But I want to understand your perspective and also your perspective on why mental health is, like, as a name, for some people, it's like, oh, like it's something that people feel shameful to talk about. Does that make sense? Like it's a guilty thing for some people, and they feel like, oh, I shouldn't feel this way. They feel literally, some people will feel like they're abnormal when it's a very normal thing. Like especially with like exams and stuff like that, it can feel so overwhelming and so detrimental, and it can feel like life or death with exams, and it can make you absolutely like just to the tipping point.
I think it's a label.
Yeah,
Label.
Sure.
And if you've got a label, and that label is just seen, once you've got a label, like, you know, if a child who has special educational needs does need support in a class and will have a TA, and that TA comes and sits next to him or her, they find it, they don't want the help. They don't want the support because they think that they're different and they've got this label.
They've got that tag associated to them.
And I think the same with mental health. It's if you suffer from anxiety or you've got any other mental health issues, and if someone gives you that label, it's, oh, I'm different. And people feel different and then go on the defensive. As opposed to sometimes you've got to accept, look, I've got an issue. And the first part of healing is acknowledging that you've got an issue. And then you can heal. Whereas you can't heal if you don't accept you've got an issue.
Of course. I think the big thing is actually there's been a shift, as we've sort of talked about anyways, but I feel mental health is becoming a bit of a trend in some way.
Yeah.
Right? Where people are sort of treating themselves and well, no, what's the word? Sort of self-diagnosing themselves and sort of say, oh, because I feel this way, I have depression, or I have this, I have that. And I feel, you know, they're now going and choosing to have that label. Oh, sorry, I can't do this. I have anxiety, or I have depression, or I have this. That, you know, because it's exactly what you sort of said. And people are trying to not get that label. Alternatively, I think a lot of young people are trying to get that label of some sort to maybe fit in more.
I get what you mean. Like, I remember there was one point in year 6 for me where everyone was like, no, in year 7, because it was just after lockdown.
Yes, sure.
Everyone was like so confused. And a lot of people were like, oh yeah, turns out I have depression. And when at that age, you're so, not necessarily naive, but you're very impressionable. And when a group of people feel a certain way, you automatically want to be like, oh, me too.
I want to be part of
you
that.
Want to relate to it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people sort of, again, misdiagnose themselves. Because, for example, they might have ADHD, but instead they say it's all like OCD. You know what I mean? They don't know the difference a lot of the time, because in lockdown, there wasn't much people could do. Like in a classroom setting, people were hardly paying attention. Yeah. Because they were either falling asleep or something like that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't talked about enough. It was just more so, oh, let's get schooling done and get it out of the way. But I don't think people understand the shift. When you come back to school, it's a completely different thing again. And I don't think people were well adjusted enough. And I think, I get your point, but I also see your point as well, how some people want to avoid the title because it's, when a lot of people have it, it makes, it's so intricately, like, interesting. It's so strange at the same time, but it's also kind of a beautiful thing, how a lot of people want to sort of share an idea. But at the same time, when it is over, like, when it's populated, it can also be very detrimental at the same time if sort of not spoken about correctly and not dealt with correctly.
And I think it's trends as well. So some people might think it's a trend. If I've got anxiety, it's a trend. And because Krish has got a trend, I want to be like, I think some people just want to be center of attention. And they'll misdiagnose themselves. And, you know, get like, I can get the attention this way. So I think sometimes some people are seeking attention and they'll misdiagnose themselves, or they'll do something silly to get that attention. And I think
maybe the wrong people get help in a lesson. Oh, I've just realised that.
That could be it, actually. They've sort of gone, oh, my TikTok doctor has told me to, I have this. They're going to act out and say, sorry, it's because of this. They're going to be the centre of the help, which is great. But now that help is not given to the actual young people who are struggling, because there's not enough capacity for the real young people. Maybe it's over. Yes. Yeah,
the attention is drawn somewhere else. Yeah, I completely understand.
Do you think you've noticed something like that, or
so in schools you'll get those kids that are really challenging, that will get all these extra activities. So they'll be taken out. They'll go to, like outdoor learning, horse riding, or go to these other different activities. That's kind of a reward, because just to manage their behavior, they've given alternative provisions or doing alternative provisions. Whereas those young people that are working tirelessly every single day, they're not the top and they're not the bottom, but then those guys in the middle that are just doing the right thing all the time just get overlooked. And like you said, it's when resources are so scarce, these guys get those people in the middle get overlooked, don't get seen.
So then, as a sort of a concluding thing,
Yes.
how can we put the middle young people, essentially, the ones not overly achieving, excelling, but not also being the bad bunch, these middle where they're doing everything right, straight line, how can they get the attention and maybe the help they deserve and need? What can we do as a society or as a community to bring out these young people to get the help they truly deserve?
Because at the end of the day, not everyone learns the same.
No, exactly. And I feel as we've sort of all said, no matter where you're from, who you are, you're a young person, you're a child, right? You're easily moldable or malleable, and so
Everyone should be seen to
right,
in their own individual way.
exactly. So what do you think we can do?
As a society, I think educators, I think we should make it mandatory for every educator to do a level 2 mental health course, so they've got that kind of understanding of mental health. Same with coaches. I think they need to learn about mental health, because it's a difference. Like when you're in a classroom, you got certain school behavioral policies, classroom policies that you need to abide by. But then when you go out from education and into a sporting, like as a coach, you notice a difference. You'll notice a child that won't behave at school, but when it comes to play cricket or a sport that he or she is passionate about, you'll see a difference
In the element.
They'll thrive.
in their character. And I think if everyone learned about mental health, and because I've seen it on both sides, from inside the classroom and outside the classroom, you notice a massive shift in attitude, self-confidence, self-beliefs. And I think if we all taught one another, and if we all learned about mental health, just ask the children about how they're feeling. And I think we need to understand how to regulate ourselves as well as adults. Because if I have a negative, say I'm having a bad day, for example, I'm not thinking like car broke down in the morning, like printer's not working, I haven't got my worksheets printed, and I'm just having this dreadful day. And the young people notice that, like, this guy's off today.
Yeah.
What's wrong with him? Like, I'll give you an example. Like, I did some practice fast before Ramadan. And when the kid goes, and then the kid comes, like, this child comes up to me, like, the next day or the day after, and he goes, "So, what was wrong with you the other day?" I go, like, "What day?" And he goes, like yesterday, for example.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fast. Like, he goes, "Yeah, man, I noticed you were different yesterday, sir." He must have been hangry. And he goes, like, "Yeah, I noticed you were different." And so they notice it. So if we are giving off this negative energy, it affects those around us. And I think if we can self-regulate and understand how we're feeling prior to a group of children coming into our classroom, I think that does help. And the same with like coaching, is just making sure that you're in a good place mentally as that responsible adult. So then you give off that energy where they feel like they want to be there and they can be open, they can thrive.
Because energy is that, what's the word, where energy is sort of absorbed. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And energy is very interesting, actually.
Yeah.
Energy is kind of scary at the same time.
Yes.
But yeah, I do agree that self-regulating is very important, and the schools and like society as a whole, they really need to push that more. And I hope that we push that more with this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hope is, coming out of it. I mean, especially myself, I'm now going to try and self-regulate a bit more.
Yeah.
I like the humming. I like, sort of counting down just to get myself getting in that good energy. So then if I'm going out to, I'm portraying that right image, that right energy to hopefully impact other people, to them them to be self-regulated and whatnot. I think I've sort of taken that, you
It
know.
can solve a lot of things. I've actually noticed this. Like some like public disagreeing situations, like disagreements. Disagreement?
Disagreements, yes.
That's a word. Oh my gosh, I had a whole lot of brain fart. But with like social disagreements and stuff like that, it can sort of be based off of energy. If everyone sort of takes a part in making sure they're calm, making sure they're cool, we can actually resolve a lot.
Potentially.
I think that's how that works.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming onto our podcast. You know, like I said, I've definitely taken a lot out of it, and I hope the viewers have too.
Taken a lot from it as well. Thank you.
Great, perfect. Great. Well, thank you very much for listening and watching. And we'll catch you next time.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you for having me.
Gosh, we've spilled the tea, haven't we? I need to go refill my cup.
Before you go, if you like what we're doing and you want to support us, please have a chat with us at
Afternoon tea at YouthTV.co.uk.
Stick the Kettle On, and we'll catch you in a bit.
See ya.